Now you guys should have audio. There we go. Apologies, guys. The Streamlabs likes to do that. You shut the program down, and then you come back in the next time, and it just resets your settings for you. um, but no, what I was saying that you couldn't hear was we're just going to talk to. Of course, as always, we can talk about anything you guys like. But I wanted to. I'm just so frustrated with the absolute, just monumental stupidity of the politicians in the country. The people, in large part, the people in charge of running this country are a bunch of useless dipshits. They really are. And I don't say that. I don't say that without any forethought or to be hyperbolic. They really are. I think a lot of them are mentally deficient, and they're in charge of things. But now I can go back to greeting people, and Mike is here, and Kobe and Chrome, and Krusty and Look Fun and Rosalina and Lix. Lix says, I don't need to go to America. I don't need to go to America to get away with stealing. I can do that at home. You know what I've noticed Lix too is making the rounds on social media and all over the place. It seems like in England, in the UK, at least what I'm seeing over here, there's a real uptick in the YouTube douchebags pulling these pranks that are way beyond the pale. Like those young guys that were just walking into people's homes. And then this, it might have been the same group, I don't know, but some other idiot just got in somebody's car, stole some old lady's dog right in front of her. I mean, and they think these pranks are kind of funny. Lick says, yeah, I assume you mean the break into home guy. Yeah, he's a cunt. Well, the thing is, I will say this. He's lucky that he lives where he does, because if you were to try that in America, you're going to have a real short lifespan. We have, most states anyway, you have the right to defend your home, and a vast majority of people have guns. And the way he did it, too, there's no mistake. This isn't like some of the tragedies we've seen over here where somebody came to a wrong door or something and got shot. That was an asshole who's absolute douchebag who shot that kid. This guy walked into the home and thought it was cool to just start making himself at home and stuff. And yeah, you would get shot here. TikTok pranks are getting super out of hand. They are, Spaz Dev. And I like a good prank video. But there comes a time when you get what you're looking for. I have zero sympathies, no empathy whatsoever if anything bad happens to these people that are doing pranks that deliberately infringe on other people's lives and the going about of their day-to-day routine and everything. Kobe says, speaking of politicians, this DeSantis guy is really cramping down on people's rights and for. What do you mean? You got to be more specific, Kobe. What rights did he clamp down on? I'm not a big fan of this idiotic, and not because I'm a fan of Disney parks. Disney, the corporation, I am not a fan of anyway. So it's not like I'm taking Disney's side, but he's being an absolute toddler about how he's going after Disney. It's just asinine. It's become nothing but a big penis contest. And there are things I'd rather have our politicians focusing on rather than trying to prove to some company that you will bend to my will and you will see social things from my perspective, which is what that is. I would disagree. Johan says America is not a great country. I think it's a great country with a lot of issues, and it could be much greater. It's our politicians that have ruined it. Our politicians and our, I hesitate to call them media, our so-called journalists. Too many politicians are focused on culture war. Everything now. Everything is culture wars. You're right. You're right. 100%. I completely agree. United Federation says DeSantis had a chance to win against Trump, but squandered it with this Disney. He's definitely hurt his chances. Absolutely. No doubt. No doubt. He still could beat him. I mean, we got a long way to go. and Trump's facing a lot of things himself too. So he still could eke out past Trump. But you're right, he's absolutely hurting himself with that. Kobe says, from what I've heard, he's going at against trans rights or something. Well, he's definitely not a trans proponent by any chance. What he's done is, that I know of, is he is not allowing conversations about sexuality in any way, shape, or form, or anything that could be construed as a conversation about sexuality to go on in schools. So if that fits under what you're talking about, yes, he has absolutely done that. Oh, I don't know about that, Licks. I can't say yes or no because I didn't hear anything that extreme. She says, isn't DeSantis the guy who signed that bill that lets doctors deny service to people who think they might be gay or trans, even if they have no evidence? He's got a bill that disallows certain medical procedures, transitioning procedures, for children under a certain age. I don't know all the specifics, but I know that's the gist of it. I don't know of anything that goes as far as what you're saying, but again, I'm not going to say no, that didn't happen. Wolverine says, fuck every politician in the history of the planet. It's gotten way worse, though. Again, I've been around a long time. The politicians have never been this level of inefficient, useless, stupid, whatever. I'm just disgusted. And I've never been this disgusted about it all. Oh, but let's go to the topic at hand, and then we'll continue on with conversation about everything. Because I want to show you guys this. For those of you who don't know, shoplifting has become epidemic in America. And it started basically because in California and some other locales, they passed a law that basically says if you shoplift anything under $1,000, nothing's going to happen to you. It's just like, oh, it's a misdemeanor, and I don't even think the misdemeanor carries anything of a penalty. Well, of course, that allowed all sorts of people are just having shopping days now. I'll show you a video of one. Thomas's last post. Let me look at this first. I remember seeing something about a Marine who saved a woman from getting pushed onto a subway track. Now he's being charged by the DA in New York. That's not entirely right. The guy that he choked out had a long criminal history, and there's a bunch of eyewitness accounts that he was being very aggressive, and he wasn't actually in the process of trying to push anybody off the platform, but he was being very aggressive and threatening. So this guy put him in a rear naked choke. Well, the DA, the DA was going to charge him. The DA down there is extreme liberal and will do whatever his echo chamber tells him to do. And because the guy who took him down was white and the guy who got choked out and died was black, of course, there was all sorts of unrest about it being racially motivated, even though there's no, from anybody at the scene, there's no indication that it was motivated by race at all. But so they have charged him. Now there's differing accounts. Some said he held the chokehold for 15 minutes. If he did, that's excessive. Yes. Others say 3. To me, that's not excessive. That's neutralizing a threat. And from what we've heard so far from witnesses, this guy was being threatening. Do I think that they'll actually get a conviction against him? No, I don't think so. Unless it is true that he held it for 15 minutes, then they got a chance. It's totally California shit, Jason. So now you have, here, let me show you the video. I queued a video up for you guys. Check this out. This, if you haven't seen it, this is just amazing to me. Let me put this up on the screen. I don't want to say for sure. I believe this one was this was California. He came in to go shopping. He's got garbage. And this isn't an isolated incident. There are tons of videos out there like this. The security guard, they're told not to try and stop them. He made a half-hearted grab at the bag. He takes the stuff he wants, fills his bag, and leaves. And that's it. You got this one. Here's a screenshot of a guy. Picked out the stuff he wanted, walks out the store. You have had, 4 Walmarts that closed in the Chicago area. Targets, big stores have closed several places over the nation where they're just getting just obliterated with shoplifters. And the politicians that put these laws into place don't see anything wrong with this. They're doing there's been no course correction. There's nobody saying, "Oh boy, yeah." Well, actually, I've got it here. I'll tell you what the and it goes on. And guys, what I showed you, that's not an isolated incident. And again, if you don't believe me, you can look it up online. Social media there's tons of them. Go on YouTube. Shoplifting caught on camera, whatever you'll see. There's tons of them. It's all over the country. It's mostly all big city stuff, but people take their garbage bags, fill it with what they want, and they walk out. And you'll see a few videos where somebody has tried to stop them, and they get indignant. Like, you've got a lot of nerve trying to stop me from stealing this shit. They really do. One lady was stealing a bunch of shit from a clothing store. Somebody chased her out into it was like a little strip plaza at the store, chased her out and took the stuff back. She started macing him because he has no right to stop her from stealing the shit that she wants. And and nothing's happening to these people. Do you want to see? I will read to you the mayor of New York City, who is a dimwit. Make no mistake about it. The guy's a moron. Let me get that up for you. Let me get it up for you. Here, because New York is just being devastated with shoplifting. He's got a new crackdown. This is legit. This is his solutions. The new crackdown includes giving first-time offenders intervention programs instead of prosecution. We're going to explain to you why what you did was naughty because people didn't realize that you're not supposed to just take shit. De-escalation training for retail employees. So now it's the employee's fault. Stopping this shoplifting is the responsibility, or knowing what to do in these situations is the responsibilities of the employees, not the responsibilities of the politicians who said, well, we're not going to do anything to you if you shoplift. Establishing neighborhood retail watch groups to share information about a theft in real time with one another and the police. So they're going to mobilize the community to tell on each other. And hopefully, then when somebody finds out that you ratted them out instead of shoplifting, the next time they'll come through and they'll just stab you. And this is my favorite. Installing kiosks in stores to connect would-be thieves with social service programs. We've got it on video. The stuff getting stolen for the vast, huge portion. It isn't food. It's not diapers. Things that you need for your family and your kids. They're stealing makeup and the aluminum foil. A lot of aluminum foil I read too. But a lot of makeup, a lot of purses, and a lot of clothes. But you're going to connect these to social programs at a kiosk. That's Adams's solution. Oh, Spaz Kid just walked in. Yeah, that's what we're up against here. Hold on, Rex, let me pull this up. Spaz Kid, as you guys can see, is now officially here. Oh. I came up and got I drove up and got them over the last couple days. Hi, Spaz Kid. Everybody. It's the boy. And it's really, really good having him back again. We'll make some videos, huh?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
We'll definitely be posting some stuff. We're just still in the process. Of course, Braxton and his fiance are getting all their stuff unpacked and put away and everything. Once we get everything squared away, we'll make some vids. I got some ideas for some fun stuff. So.
I just wanted to stop in.
Oh, I'm glad you did. Yeah, you guys will be seeing much more of Spaz Kid now that he's here.
Oh, that's a blessing.
That's a blessing, and indeed it is. And I'm sure he'll probably pop on the gaming channel or even come in here and just do some gaming and stuff. Right, now let me catch up with stuff they can resell and make money off of. Right, look fun. Exactly. And that's honestly the mayor of is New York. I think New York's still the biggest city in the country. But anyway, one of the biggest cities in the world. He has his entire city has fallen victim to rampant shoplifting, and those are his solutions. He's going to put a kiosk in stores to connect people with social service. Because they're not, if you put that, what is the logic there? He really thinks the people shoplifting are going to stop to use that kiosk instead of taking what they want? They're going to use that kiosk for social services rather than go steal a bunch of purses and makeup? What is going on in this country? How are these people this fucking stupid? As far as I'm concerned, I mean this sincerely, this isn't meant to be a joke. I think any politician who has supported these policies of little to no repercussions for those who steal, if they've supported that, it should be perfectly legal for anybody to go into their offices and take what they want under $1,000. Because why should just the retailers and even the little local mom and pop stores, why should they have the responsibility of dealing with that every day? And then these politicians that made the laws don't have to deal with it. So in other words, if your printer quits at home, go into your local politician's office or even your state politician's office, take their printer. It's under $1,000. And they got to abide by the same rules. They advise the retailers not to stop them, to just document what went on and report it to police. They should do the same thing. Don't stop them. Just stand back, let them take your shit, and then worry about it later. I think that should absolutely have to be a part of any legislation they have along those lines. Poppy says, last long post, Spazman. All right, let me take a look. When I was working the counter of a charity shop, she says, someone stole something. I almost went after them, but it takes a special dickhead to steal from charity. Yeah, you're not wrong there, Poppy. You took it to a whole nother level. Not only are you stealing, you're stealing away from people who have nothing, who are in need. Yeah, it's gotten crazy. Chrome says they're okay with crime, doesn't hurt the ones on top. Exactly right. It makes people even more desperate to give the government power. Also, the Dems are just evil and racist. They think it's black culture. And even taking the race out of it, it's just an asinine policy. It's ridiculous to make policy that says it's okay to steal things from other people, to just go in and take stuff that doesn't belong to you. There's no way that they should be able to elevate themselves above that. They should have to deal with the same thing. And then you have dimwits on, well, of course, the internet is full of idiots. And they're saying, well, who cares? It's just a major corporation. Well, there's a few issues with that. One is when these corporations take huge amounts of losses, and they are, to shoplifters, their insurance rates go up. Their losses, okay, even if they can write that off, it's still a loss. They're not going to, nor should they be, when it comes to shoplifting, they shouldn't be expected to have to absorb all that loss themselves. Why should they? They're going to raise their prices. If they have to pay more for insurance, if they have to absorb more and more loss in their stores, they're going to raise their prices to make up for it, to get that money back. So now the rest of us get to pay for it. All of us will pay for these clowns that just go in and take whatever they want to take. And besides that, it's just the simple fact that that you can try and justify people walking in anywhere and taking a bunch of stuff that doesn't belong to them and leaving, and you think that's okay in any way, shape, or form, makes you a scumbag. There's no two ways about it. It would be entirely different if we're talking about somebody who's stealing a loaf of bread, some bologna, some whatever, to feed themselves and or their kids. In this day and age, you would think it shouldn't happen because there are social programs out there. But at least if it's something like that, at least you say, okay, desperate times, desperate measures. These are people stealing purses. They're stealing makeup. They're clearly selling stuff that, as we said, can be resold. Likely, I would imagine, for drug money in a lot of cases. Everton says, all right, I was planning on going there, but Joe, it's official. I'm going to steal the billionaire president because here in Brazil sucks. And don't get me wrong, for those of you who don't live in America, because of the shit that goes on here, it deservedly gets painted as a hellhole. That's not the norm. That's not the day-to-day life. There are certain places you should stay away from if you come here. Mainly major. If you're going to major cities, research them and know where to be within those major cities, because that's where most all of this is going on. Like where I lived in upstate New York was very, very low crime. Now, people could say that's because, well, it's low population area, everybody knows each other. That's not what it was. It was very rural. Most people were hunters, and almost every home had a gun. And people know how to use them. It's part of it's a way of life there. Who the hell's going to go in and try and steal something in somebody's house when you know the odds are dramatically in favor of that home having a firearm? That's why it doesn't happen. It's not that people don't want to steal. We had a halfway house in the village I lived in with that some real unsavory types would come through. But you got a death wish if you go breaking into somebody's house to steal there. But again, places where people can't defend themselves are easy targets. Pac-Man! Hey, how you doing? And celebrating the first super chat from Pac-Man. Good to see you, my friend. Mistress says, yesterday I saw a protest live in Missouri on TikTok against male circumcision. Laughed my ass of all things to protest, right? It was on the roadside. They had signs like "Free the penis." I'm not joking, right? And I've seen that too, Mister. I've seen protests about that. I don't get that either. I know what they're saying. They're saying, well, it's a child can't consent to it, so on and so forth. Well, it's something that's been done forever, and it doesn't have any significant long-lasting effects. It's not something that is going to cost you your life. It's not something that's going to change the way you live your life from day to day. I don't see why people get that much up in arms about it, to be honest with you. But people like to have something to complain about. Igor says, I always dreamed about living in the U.S., but I'm a pussy, oh no, and terrified of shit like hurricanes and earthquakes. Is there anywhere in the U.S. where there is rarer cause, the least amount of... Oh yeah. Again, Igor, it's because we have so many things going wrong, that's all that gets accentuated. But absolutely. There are hurricanes and earthquakes. Well, there's the hurricanes obviously are only the coastal regions of the country. Even where I am, we're 4 hours from the ocean, and there hasn't been any significant hurricane damage where I live in years, decades. Earthquakes are generally, the biggest threat of earthquakes is West Coast, is California, Oregon, up through there, and the San Andreas Fault. Other parts of the country get them, but they're typically little shivers here or there where, the earth is adjusting itself or whatever. The vast majority, there's plenty of places to live in this country. And the one thing I can say for America is no matter what you're interested in or what lifestyle you like to live, there is a place for you. Yeah, from the perspective of severe weather, there are places around the world that deal with a lot more than us on a regular basis. We're pretty lucky with that. Circumcision is very common in the U.S. Kaiser, yes, very common. Yep. Big Purple Pop says circumcising in America comes back to the traditional farmhand belief that you masturbate less than having the nerve protection, and so adolescents would work more. Really? I'd never heard. I believe that could be the case. I had never heard that though. I believe that. Lex says, it's evil. Big Pharma wants to take all the dick tips so they can Frankenstein together a mega dick and steal all the hoes. Now that I will believe. Goddamn Big Pharma, Lex. It's whenever something goes awry, whenever something is fucked up, a good place to always shift your gaze is to Big Pharma. I'm with you. Wholesome Dose says, personally, a lot of people like the president of El Salvador. Recently, they had a police officer killed by gang members, so he sent 5,000 soldiers and 500 police officers to surround the area. I'm all for that. I mean, it's what we've lost sight of here in America, I know, big hunk of America anyway, is there are evil people out there. Some people commit crime. Some people are violent just because that's who they are and that's how they're geared. But we've become a society where, to a lot of people in our society, whenever anybody does something violent, something wrong, something terrible, there has to be a reason. Person didn't get enough hugs or something. We have to look at it from their perspective. No, sometimes people are just fucked up. A lot of times people are just fucked up. It's just like this whole thing with not prosecuting people for theft under $1,000. The morons who put it in place, their take is, well, it's just because people are hungry. That's not what's going on. These people aren't stealing because they're hungry. Again, are they gonna eat those designer purses? Are they gonna drink the makeup? Because that's what's getting stolen. Anybody with half a brain could have seen that doing that was just going to open the floodgates for shoplifting. And then these absolute useless morons that put these plans into place act shocked by it. And then you get idiots like Adams who are going to put kiosks that you can connect with social services in retail establishments so you don't have to steal. He's a fucking dimwit. Pac-Man says, let's all just elect Curtis as president. Daily gooshings in the situation room. Oh, you can bet money on that, Pac-Man. the gooshings will commence without a question. Yeah, they stole a TV to eat it, Irish Potato says. It's stupidity. And if that is the case, if the politicians were genuinely doing that because they felt like people were stealing because they needed food, you work on your existing social programs to better them or increase them or whatever you need to do. You don't just tell people you can go take whatever you want. Unless that's the plan, unless the politicians are afraid to raise taxes to give more benefits, so they figure, okay, we'll do it the roundabout way. We'll let them go steal from the stores. When they steal from the stores, those retail outlets will have to get their money back by raising prices. So that's how we'll get the population to support it. It won't be a direct tax. It'll be a roundabout tax. Mr. says they probably steal clothes, foods, and drink the most, right? Social services aren't exactly lucrative, so the kiosk will not work either way, and probably electronics. Yes, a lot of electronics. There's been a lot of thefts in Apple stores. There was a video, I should have kept it, of a guy, and it's karma. I don't feel bad for him at all. It looks like his hip was clearly broken. There's a video of a guy who had just been trying to steal shit from an Apple store in a mall. Well, apparently there must have been cops or something because nobody's scared of security guards. There must have been cops there. And to get away, he jumped off the second story down to the first floor. And you see him, he lands awkwardly. He tries to get up and he flops down again. And the way he landed, I'm pretty sure he busted himself up. It looked like he probably broke his hip. And then he tries to get up again and walk, and the leg just won't work, falls out, and he just lays there on the ground. It's like, that's where the phrase fuck around and find out comes from. No sympathy at all. Again, you're stealing Apple products. You're not, and he was well dressed and everything. You're not stealing because you're hungry or to feed your kids. You're stealing because you want some cool electronics, or you want to sell some cool electronics. Thomas's last post. Hell, there was an Uber driver who got cut up and put into garbage cans a few miles from me. That's insane. Yeah, that's what I mean. There is a lot of violence in this country. That's also, too, why I've always been a big believer that I know with all the shootings we have and everything, and we'll talk Second Amendment another time, but one of the reasons I don't believe that you can legislate this problem away with gun legislation is we have a problem with psychopaths in this country. If you look at, now we have all these issues with gun violence, but if you look at our rate of knife violence, it's right up there with the UK, with every place else in the world. You would think if everybody's using guns, at least the knife violence would not be what it is elsewhere, but that's not true either. We just have a problem with violence. And it doesn't matter what tool is used. when you have people in your society that regularly want to go in and just obliterate big swatches of other people, that's a problem. That's a people problem. We've got serious issues in this country with people and the way they look at the world, and we always focus on the wrong thing. Well, let's first step is let's see if we can make the tool of their destruction more difficult to obtain. No, the first step is stop these fuckers from wanting to kill a bunch of people. But nobody talks about that because that won't get you political points. Yeah. Mister says now that thief will spend more money on an electronic wheelchair instead. Yeah, it's a nasty fall. Kaiser says there's a video of an American saying racist stuff to Japanese people on a bullet train. I just saw that, Kaiser. I mean, actually racist, as he was bringing up the 2 nukes and how the U.S. would do it again. And there's no excuse for stuff like that. No excuse. And the Japanese society is generally so accepting and, chill. And you see things like that, and it turns my stomach. It's such an American thing. I don't know. I don't even know what the solution is, but they should kick them out of the country. Absolutely. Nitram says, I'll ask again in case you missed it. Nitram, we get a lot of comments. I look down and I read them as I see them. But if you don't respond to this, I'll assume it's a topic you don't want to talk about. Superstar Billy Graham died. Yeah, that was sad. Superstar Billy Graham was actually the first wrestler's autograph I ever got in my life when I was a kid. Phenomenal wrestler. Chrome says you have a rule of law problem. We know exactly where the problems are. It's the inner cities. It's always the inner cities. Same here in the UK. Look up the Rat City experiment. It makes people insane. You're right, Chrome. But you can't even state. But here in America, everybody is so oversensitive. You can't even state that because they think if you say it's an inner city problem, you're being racist. We're not talking about race. We're talking about there's concentrated issues with violence in inner cities. And we need to work on ways to, you got to work on ways to make the people of the inner cities want to give up that way of life somehow. And we always make everything more complicated than it needs to be. But because until the people actually want to abandon that lifestyle, they legitimately say, if I had better options, I would take them. You can't help them until they want to do that. Gabe says the French right now are in hell because the government raised the retirement age up by 2 years. Oh, and Gabe, I'm certainly not an authority on all things European or certainly specifically French, but I know I have read a lot of people who are French. I mean, who are living it day to day, and they're saying that the retirement age thing is definitely what got all the protestations started and got Paris on fire. But from what they're saying, I guess there's a lot more to it too. I guess this has been bubbling for some time. At least that's what they're saying. Big Purple Pop says gun good, ninja star illegal. Yeah. Yes. Well, there's well, is it Switzerland, guys? Switzerland or maybe Sweden? I think it's a Nordic country that has a much higher gun ownership rate than does America, and they don't have any issues of this sort. But the fact is, see, it's current, because I've told you guys before, excuse me, when I was a kid, when I went to school, guns were always around because I went to a rural school. They were all hunters. They were all gun enthusiasts. You would go through the parking lot on a given day. Teachers, the upperclassmen, tons of them would have guns on the gun rack of their trucks. And I can remember kids getting new hunting rifles and stuff for Christmas, for a birthday or something. They'd bring it into school to show everybody. Nobody got nervous about it. Hell, the teachers a lot of them were hunters, gun enthusiasts too. So they're all right into it. Oh, that's really cool. And they'd leave it in their locker. Because nobody was going to shoot you with it. It was not even a thought. We all knew how to respect weapons. We all knew how to handle weapons. So nobody was afraid. And it's not like it was because societally things were different. Bullying was more rampant then than it is now. Because back then, they didn't even try to stop it. They just say, oh, they'll work it out themselves type thing. But nobody was going to go get a gun over it. Not to, they might go get their gun, but it was to go shooting after school, not shooting in the school. Really? Pac-Man says, I'm trying to donate $50, but it won't let me, so here we go. Excuse me. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, my friend. I wonder why. Is it because we name the colors? Is it because we call the $50 donation Pussy Pink now, guys? Was that making YouTube too sensitive? So they won't let Pac-Man do that one? They're going to say Pussy Pink if you do it. But Pac-Man says, off topic, I'm the guy that hit you up on Patreon for advice on a new channel. Oh, okay. Got 3 videos up now, and I'm proud of myself for making that push. Absolutely. Absolutely. Keep working it. And as I said, I mean, there's not a lot of tips to be given. There's so much content out there, but the main one is titling. Because it's going to be tough to get noticed no matter what, at any level, unless you're, PewDiePie or Markiplier or something. It's always going to be tough to get noticed. But the one way to assure yourself that you won't is to poorly title your video. So that's number one. No, going nowhere says, Curtis, do you prefer warm weather or cold weather? Well, it kind of depends. And I'll tell you why. Because if you're talking extremes, I'd probably rather, because I'm a native New Yorker, probably rather just have to deal with the extreme cold weather, because the extreme hot weather just devastates me. If you're talking like day to day, a warmer climate versus a cooler climate, I'll deal with the warmer climate. I like warm climates. Kaiser says, I remember my mother saying how when she was a kid, kidnappings and murders were far less common than now. It was such a shock back then too. See, Kaiser, I do and don't agree. I think possibly both might have been a little lower per capita, but more of it was we didn't hear about a lot of it. Obviously you didn't have the internet, you didn't have social media, and a lot of that stuff was kept hush-hush. There was a lot of creepy, disturbing shit went on in my era, in my generation, particularly with inappropriateness towards children. This whole thing like this, the scandals we see now with priests, with altar boys and stuff, that's not new. It was going on, just wasn't talked about. So, like I said, I kind of agree with her, because I think probably statistically it was somewhat lower, but not as much lower as a lot of people believe. It just wasn't talked about. I did. Chrome says, did you see the thing with the pregnant nurse having her bike stolen? People are calling her a Karen and racist for being scared of like 5 black guys stealing her bike. She was fired from her. Well, she was, as far as we know so far, Chrome, she was put on leave from her job, but she's already got a lawyer, and the lawyer has already said they're coming after the media, and I'm sure they'll be going after her employer. She could end up really rich over this, because everybody jumped to conclusions on that. If it's true what they're saying, and she has the receipts to back up that, because it was that rental bike thing in New York City, if she has the receipts to prove that that was her bike and she had rented it and they pushed it back into the dock on her, then all these media outlets, and I love seeing them get the screws put to them now because they're so irresponsible, they're going to be paying. She's already got the lawyer. Wholesome Deuce says, Macron, you guys have to work an extra 2 years or our social services will collapse. The French people, then we'll burn the country ourselves. Well, you probably know more about it than I do, pal. But again, that's what I have heard. Now, it could be just people making excuses for it. That's possible too. But a lot of people in France are saying, well, this is something that's been on a slow burn for a while, and this was just like the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. Or so they're saying. Zuchen says, I've seen a video of a guy who is going to different phone stores stealing phones, and a bunch of police were following him. He went to Metro PCS, and a few minutes later he was surrounded by lots of police. Well, that's the problem, and the cops can't be everywhere. And just like that video I showed you guys, it goes on all the time. And there's videos of Apple stores all over the place. The one guy, how in the Apple stores usually they'll have the shelves along the walls, and on the shelves are just the different items they're displaying. You'll have the iPhones, the iPads, the whole nine all lined up. He ripped the whole shelf off. Just ripped it all off. Now, all those display ones are not going to be any good to you. They're locked down. You're not going to be able to use them. But you can still sell them for some of the parts, and I'm assuming that's what they're doing. But he ripped the whole shelf off and went out the door with it. And again, they don't even try and disguise their face or anything. And I don't get that, because that's way over the $1,000 limit, but they just don't care. They know that depending on where you live, the prosecutions are so weak that they know they're not going to get in any real trouble for it. If they don't have, even if they do have a long history, they'll still say, well, it's just items, and now I'm going to let you go this time, but you're going to have to report to your probation officer every so often. And that's what they do. We're afraid in this country now to punish criminals. Not afraid, just don't have any desire to. It's all about making America has become, if you're a law-abiding, good citizen, watch the fuck out, because it's not you that the government's concerned about. Oh, Chrome says she shared that receipt online. Let me take a look at the link. Update the Daily Mail. Obtained and shared a copy of the receipt showing paid for the exact bike that's seen in the viral video. Who's that? I can't think of, that's really cool. There's some, he's a commentator on YouTube, I guess, and big on TikTok. Some lard ass with a beard. I guess he really went to town on her. So it'll be interesting to see if he gets sued too. I hope so. Because with no, and again, it's the irresponsibility of people in the media or people that want to be in the media, just went after her for being a Karen and this, that, and the other, and just another case of, white supremacy type stuff with no details. I hope he gets, oh man, I hope he gets his life ruined. Kasama says they were quick to dox the nurse. We still don't know who the black guys are. Dindo. See, I don't know. I hate the fact, well, it wouldn't have made news otherwise. I actually hate the fact that it was black guys, because it does turn it into, everything turns into racial components then. Trust me, I know personally, have known personally, plenty of white people who do that same type of stuff. Exact same type of stuff. But now, because it's a white Karen and young black men, that's going to be the talking point. But the fact, and like I say, I'm in a vicious circle there, because if it had been white young men doing it to her, it wouldn't even made the news. So we wouldn't even know about it. Such is the nature of this country right now. And that's what's so fucked up about it all. Yeah, everything, nothing is newsworthy unless it's race related, Kasami. You're right. And that's unfortunate, because again, yes, that's what the situation was. It was young black men. It was a white woman. But this type of thing happens every day when the races are reversed, or, you have white men victimizing black people, and you have white people victimizing white people. It goes on all the time. But when the dynamics are just so, then it becomes a huge issue. Chrome says, I genuinely think you need to rip up inner cities altogether. The actual structure of inner cities just encourage crime. People aren't meant to live like that, like rats in a maze with no air or green. I think that's true, but I think a lot of the big city politicians, Chrome, they thrive on that. Because their policies would certainly make me believe that they're proponents of their cities being that way. Because, again, they enact policies that are going to encourage it. Chrome says, didn't New York's DA jump on the story as well as attacking her? I know Tariq Nasheed and apparently AOC did as well. Yeah. And that's what the lawyer's looking into. So it'll be interesting to see. I hope she's got a good lawyer. And I hope they go after absolutely everybody who jumped to conclusions. And in any situation, I don't care what the racial dynamics are. That's why I have no respect for the media anymore. There was a time when anything like that took place, media did have some integrity. And even they would report on things like that very trepidatiously and say, okay, this is what, they would make it clear. This is what we know so far. This is what happened. This is what we've seen. Now it's just, here we go. Got another goddamn Karen. And you don't know all the details. And they never learn. They paid through the nose to that kid that was getting stared down by that Native American dude. Remember that a few years ago? And everybody said that smug kid was being a dick to him. Come to find out, it was a Native American guy who was 100% the aggressor. And they paid big money to that kid because they painted him in a totally irresponsible manner, in a totally inaccurate manner. Excuse me. And they didn't learn a goddamn thing from it. Because if it's going to get clicks, that's the way they're going to run with the story. That's the way they do things now. Krusty says the media is to be furiously shat on these days. I agree. Long gone are the days where media was to be respected. I couldn't agree more. And again, that hits personal for me because that was my goal. That was my education. I did work for a newspaper. Found out that I hated it, but I didn't know. I was young and I liked writing. But I always had a big respect for that journalistic integrity and going out and getting a good story and, being the force that holds politicians, hold their feet to the fire when they need to be and stuff. And that's gone. Because even when it's not so much, for the most part, it's not so much that they report fake news, they report slanted news. They only tell you the sides of the story they want you to hear. There's no longer even a pretense of trying to tell a whole story. It's what will move my team forward. And I have no use for mainstream media. I see now on a local level, you can still find some good media coverage. You can find some decent journalists on local levels. On national levels, it's just like with national politics. You don't get to be a national politician of note in America without having been compromised to some degree. And the same has become true for media. You don't get to be operating on a national level unless you've been willing to take a side, become part of a team. Chrome says, in brighter news, Bochy the Rock is getting a film. It was just announced. Boy, that's a good show. I'm enjoying that. Also, Trigun's manga getting a reprint after like 15 years. Be a high-end deluxe edition because of the new anime. That's cool. That's very cool. 100% right, Shark Dentures. Shark Denture says getting a good story is less important than telling an accurate story. 100% true. It's all about getting those clicks. That's all media is anymore. What will generate the most clicks for us? Dizzy Rabbit says, can I steal jokes in America too? That goes on all the time. Carlos Mencia says yes. For those who don't know, Carlos Mencia was a stand-up comedian, had his own TV show for a while and stuff, but basically got drummed out of the comedy circuit because he was stealing jokes from so many other comics. I think it was, and I could be wrong on this, but I'm trying to remember the exact story. I think Bernie Mac yoked him up at a comedy club once over it. And I know Joe Rogan in front of an audience went up and got right in his face about his stealing jokes and everything, and pretty much did his career in, as it should be. Kasama says, even on the local level, I still see very slanted stories. Pisses me off, and I end up yelling at the damn TV. Oh, no, I don't mean to say, right, Kasama, I agree with you. I don't mean to say that all local journalists have any sort of ethics. They don't. Well, if they're shooting for the big leagues, they can't. Because if the big leagues can't count on you to be on the team, you're not going to the big leagues. But I think there still are pockets of good journalists on the lower levels. They haven't been too corrupted yet. Krusty says, you know how you can fix 99% of the American problems? Tell the government to stop governmenting and kick the shit out of them. The people will sort themselves out. Well, we definitely need less government intervention, that's for sure. And I've said this for some time, we need less federal government intervention because we have grown America even more so into pockets of certain beliefs in this country. So the more you can let people that live in an area govern their own area, the happier everyone is. But feds will never agree to the idea of releasing any of their power. Demi says, why steal jokes like you're not going to be caught? Yeah, and he used to do it. People had posted videos and stuff, Demi, of a comedian, comedian A doing a set, and then some months later, here's Carlos Mencia and his take on the same set. And again, Joe Rogan very publicly went right after him and said, you're scum, dude. You steal jokes. And he pointed out all the different times that it happened, and that was it. Carlos, his career was pretty much done. Bailey says the media are bought and paid for these days, correct? I believe Honest Reporting died the day Jill Dando died. Yeah, it's never going to be the same again, and it's sad. It's sad. You're right, Chrome. Chrome says, well, that's what the original plan was. The Fed by design is meant to have minimal powers, and it's the states with the real power. So California and New York can't rule with an iron fist. No, you're right. That was the idea. But, you got these politicians in Congress, in the White House, wherever, of powerful national politicians in the federal government. They're not going to give away that power. They want more. I mean, that's why you have things like that's one of the reasons why I've always said I will never vote for anybody who's looking to take more of your money that you earn and let the government redistribute it for you. That's why I have nothing to do with Bernie Sanders or people like him. They want government to be your nanny. And the government does not have your best interests in mind. It just simply does not. That's proven over and over. Shark Dentures says, no wonder why I thought Carlos was funny. He made many comedians in one. Right, Dentures. And I'll give Carlos Mencia was a great storyteller. He had a great stage presence. He really did. I mean, he was good at delivering. It's just that he was delivering a lot of other people's stuff. Yeah, true. Good point, Wholesome Deuce. If the Fed can't rule with an iron fist, how do you expect them to tax the shit out of people? Very good point, pal. Oh shit! I gotta go, guys. It's almost 1. That's why the stream was early today, because I really wanted to stream. I hadn't gotten to talk to you guys in a while, but I got stuff I have to do all afternoon. So it's like I could squeeze one in on you guys. Come on, that made you all hot when I said that. The way I said squeeze one in. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to let that marinate a little. Okay, I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep making back puns. So we'll call this off for today. Thank you guys for the conversation as always. It's always good. We got to have more of these topical conversations as we go, though. I enjoy these. We always really have a good time, get a lot of good perspective on everything, and I like that a lot. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. And as I said, you guys saw Spaz Kid pop in. Once we get things squared away in the house here and everything, he'll definitely make some vids with me and everything. We'll get him back on the channel here every so often. But guys, thanks for hanging out with me, and thanks for all the great conversation, and I'll talk to you guys soon.